I'm a little worried about what could come from this video, but in the interest of affirming the experiences of other women, I felt like it was important for me to use my platform to talk about this, regardless of how many people see it or don't see it. I just want for people to know that this happened and that the women who've experienced things at the hands of this man are not alone. So I want to start out by saying that I have a lot of really complicated feelings around this. I am a survivor of sexual violence. I have been raped and assaulted several times in my life. And there are a lot of experiences that I've had that I have not always interpreted as assault. But when you put them out on paper, they are. That is exactly what they are. And while I do not hold my experience with Ron Jeremy in my head as a thing that was traumatic and upsetting, it was something that happened and it was wrong and it was messed up. So I guess we'll start from the very beginning. I was a teenager who really liked reality TV, and one of my favorite shows on VH1 was this show called The Surreal Life, and Ron Jeremy was in that cast. I thought that Ron Jeremy was a really interesting character because he was a porn star. I'd never heard of him before this, but he was a porn star and he was funny, he was hilarious, he just was a fun guy to be around, you know? And yeah, he has a porn past, and yeah, maybe he's a little perverted, but that's not all of who he is, right? So, you know, regular viewers of my channel know that I'm part of the alternative community out here. I like to go to a lot of really interesting, fun places where there are a lot of people doing interesting, fun things. And one of my big focuses when I moved to LA was finding a place where they did live music. I wanted to just make live music and supporting local bands and supporting, you know, bands in general, part of my sort of LA tradition. So I found this bar. I'm not going to mention the name of the bar because the bar is currently struggling, as a lot of bars are. But I found this bar and they do regular jam sessions and there are bands that play there constantly. And I'm usually kind of in the area. When I was first living in LA, I was living in Crenshaw. Now I live in Hollywood. So it's really, really close to where I live. And so I would go there pretty often. I was, you know, somewhat of a regular. I wouldn't say I was quite a regular, but I was somewhat of a regular. My first night going to this bar, I saw, as I was walking into this bar, Ron Jeremy. And let me tell you, the Ron Jeremy from The Surreal Life is a little different from the Ron Jeremy today. Ron Jeremy physically is this very sort of frail, I guess you could say, man. He's definitely a lot older than he was in The Surreal Life, and he just sort of seems like a grandpa. You know, he just kind of seems like that sort of grandpa that's got a lot of stories, and he's largely harmless, right? I saw him but didn't want to do the fangirl thing. Some of you guys know that I personally hate when people do the fangirl thing with me, and so I didn't want to do that with him. There was a band playing upstairs, so I went and listened to the band and had a good old time. So by the end of the night, I was drunk. I was pretty drunk. The way that this bar kind of works is they close the upstairs earlier. Upstairs is where all the music stuff happens. And everyone kind of goes out to the patio, and it's kind of this big sort of thing for a good hour or so, and then everyone leaves. Now, I am the kind of person who I stayed at the very, very bitter end, the bitter, 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 bitter end. And if I'm remembering correctly, I was sort of having conversations with people. I was connecting with people. You know, I was doing my sort of, you know, friendly LA thing, I guess you could say. The night was ending. I had had quite a few drinks, and I was standing on the patio waiting for my Uber, and Ron Jeremy was on the patio as well. We were literally the only two people at the patio, right? And so Ron Jeremy starts to have a conversation with me, and he mentions to me that he had seen me walking in. He introduced himself. Now, this was a moment where I thought, because he introduced himself, that I could sort of express, hey, you know, I used to watch you on The Surreal Life. I think you're really, really awesome or whatever. And I was kind of having my little fangirl moment, I guess you could say. And so I go to hug Ron Jeremy. You know, we're having a conversation, introducing ourselves. I'm a very friendly person. I'm a hugger. I decide to hug Ron Jeremy. As I'm hugging Ron Jeremy, he grabs my hand and puts it down onto his penis, which is fully erect. Now, Before we get further into this video, I want to say this. I have my experience, and I hope that what I'm about to say about the experience doesn't negate the other experiences other women have had, because I'm not saying any of this to make light of it or to make it seem like it wasn't a violation, because it was. To be honest with you guys, I'm just going to say this. I was trying to speak around this, but I'm just going to say it. I'm very used to men groping me. I'm very used to men assaulting me. And there's a part of me that is very quick to laugh it off, is very quick to dismiss it, is very quick to like, okay, whatever. This was a situation where that happened and I had a response that I guess reflected that. So he's kind of really aggressively holding my hand on his penis. And he says to me, do you want to see a magic trick? And that's a very strange thing to say when you've got your hand on somebody's penis. So I was like, okay, sure. And he says, Ronnie, go down. And his penis deflates. He has one of those surgeries that men who have erectile dysfunction get when they cannot maintain an erection and they need to sort of have extra help getting them there. So after that, I'm like laughing about it or whatever. And he's, you know, touching me and things. And mind you, I'm very drunk when this is happening. I'm very, very drunk. And it's clearly inappropriate, but again, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking this is Ron Jeremy, you know, and again, even though this is wrong, he's an old man, you know, he's kind of this old, horny dude who, yes, this is inappropriate, but I feel like we all have people like that in our life where like, he's inappropriate, he's from a different time. You make all these excuses for them. So after that point, he tries to finger me. And I'm kind of like, oh, you know, and I think that's when I really started to kind of register it as like not fully okay, because I just introduced myself to you. You've put my hand on your penis already, and now you're trying to finger me. Also, we are in public. Yes, there's nobody on the patio right now, but we are in public. As kinky as I am, I don't really want to get fingered in the front of the bar that I frequent, right? And also, I'm transgender. He's putting his fingers right on, you know, onto my genitalia, and I'm pushing him away, and I'm, you know, trying to explain to him that I'm transgender, and he doesn't really believe me, which is very, very common. As he was doubting that I was transgender, he started to like feel the front of my genitals, and he was like, no, this feels like the so-and-so and the such and such. And he was naming off like very specific parts of the vagina, the vulva, etc. He was basically saying, you're lying to me. It's like, no, it's not. No, yes, I'm trans. So to be honest with you guys, Ron was actually really chill about me being trans. He was like, oh, okay. You know, he like complimented me, said that it was beautiful, and slowly but surely started like backing away from me and left me alone. Right? Now, there are some people who will hear this story and say, well, good thing you're trans because that's the thing that saved you. But the crazy thing is I had so many experiences with Ron Jeremy after that experience, and he never remembered who I was. Because after my first experience at the bar, I started frequenting the bar. I was going all the time. I loved going for the jam nights. I loved going for the live bands. I go to this event all the time that's really close to that area. So I would go after that event all the time. And Ron Jeremy was always there. I think that of the times I've been to this particular bar, Ron Jeremy has probably not been there like twice. Like he's always at the bar, and he's usually standing pretty much in front of the bar. I keep seeing him, and it does become this sort of thing where I go to the bar, I see Ron Jeremy, I say hi, hello, whatever. He does his little perverted thing and I dodge it, and we just sort of accept it. It's Ron. That's Ron. That's what Ron does, you know? And you would see sort of the men, because I've never saw a woman do this, kind of like brush it off all the time. Oh, that's just Ron. He's just a little pervert, you know, and it was just kind of the way that things were. Ron just sort of did that there. That was just kind of what it was. And so a lot of times when I would be there and he would try to start a conversation with me, you know, I would just kind of like, you know, be polite and be nice, but like I knew that he was probably going to try to grope me. And I didn't want that to happen. And so I would often just kind of like dodge around it, right? So fast forward, there was this one night where I was at this bar and I started talking to this guy and he started buying me drinks and he was in this big group of Hollywood people and Ron was part of that group. We all went to this sort of house party afterwards. There was this back room where everyone was. This guy whose party this was is a whole other story that I've actually told before. I've actually talked about this on Twitter, which I'll get to later. This guy was like showing off his wealth, basically. That night I was wearing this corset, which if you've ever worn a corset, especially one that's good for you, pushes your boobs up. You know, my boobs were all the way up here. And I had like walked off to go to the bathroom and was coming back and Ron was laying on the couch. Ron has, I believe it's like narcolepsy. He falls asleep all the time randomly. And he had like been on the couch and was just waking up from one of his naps as I was going back to the group. And he, without even really talking to me, puts his fingers into my dress. I was wearing this like pink velvet dress. I've worn it on here before with my corset. And he like put his fingers like into my dress and grabbed my nipple. Like it was nothing. I told so many people this story when it happened. It was a story that I told with the subtext of laughter because I thought that it was just such a funny, quirky experience in LA. But I had to have several people point out to me that that was kind of messed up for me to really be like, oh yeah, I guess it was messed up for him to do that. It was a weird experience that I thought was kind of hilarious. I thought it was just kind of this funny weirdo experience that I had with this strange man in LA. But a lot of people started telling me that Ron Jeremy has a pattern of doing this. This is kind of his MO. This is sort of what he does. And I didn't know that there had been so many accusations against him. I didn't know that he was banned from AVN. I didn't know any of this stuff. When I shared it today on my Twitter, there were a lot of women who came forward to say that they had literally the same exact experience with him. In fact, there's a porn star who came forward and said, hey, he literally did the same exact thing to me. Ron Jeremy has been accused several times of assaulting sex workers. And unfortunately, the way that a lot of this shit works in society is if a porn star comes out and accuses Ron Jeremy of assault, the reaction from the general public is, well, what the fuck did you expect? You know, I'm not a porn star. I'm not a sex worker. When I talked about it on my Twitter, I had this just torrent of men telling me that it never happened, that I made it up, that I'm looking for attention, all of this shit, right? I even had men say, okay, but aren't you a porn star? I even had a guy say, well, okay, but you're taking pictures with your tits out, so ... As though any of this makes him grabbing my hand and putting it on his penis okay. It doesn't. But the thing is I think this is habitual for Ron Jeremy. And I think he specifically goes after the kind of women who probably aren't going to be seen as sympathetic victims. There's so many porn actresses who have called him out. I mean, there are a lot of women who have told stories of him putting his hands underneath their dresses and actually inserting a finger inside of them, knowing that he tried to finger me so quickly and so easily without knowing me very well. I believe it. I believe it. And we can't all have the same story. You know, we can't all have the same experience. There's footage of him assaulting women. There's footage of it. I'm not going to share it in this video, but there's footage of it. I will link a video by this woman named Ginger who did this video years ago talking about it. I'm not having this conversation for attention or anything like that. I'm literally talking about this because I want to affirm the experiences of other women. Because here's the thing, while I might have laughed it off, would I ever tell one of my girlfriends to hang out around Ron Jeremy alone? Never. 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 Because I understand that what he did was wrong. I understand that him grabbing my hand and putting it on his penis is a violation. A couple of people asked me why I didn't talk about this sooner, why I didn't call this out earlier. First of all, I have talked about this before. I did talk about it in a really vague way on Twitter when it happened. My personal friends have seen me post about it on Facebook when it happened, because I've had so many run-ins with Ron Jeremy. And it's literally just because for me, it was a blip on a long list of blips that I've had when it came to men groping me. I've been groped so much in my life, especially just existing as a young woman who's sex positive in the alternative community. It's like, it just happens all the time. And I really feel like I would really lose my mind calling it out every single time it happened. But I want to reaffirm that it happened because I know that there are people right now who are dealing with all of these people, men usually, saying, oh, it never happened. He would never do this. But when I saw today that he was being charged with rape and sexual assault, I felt like it was important for me to share this, because even though I don't look at my experiences with Ron Jeremy and say that he traumatized me or anything close to that, and I definitely brushed it off and dismissed it, I intellectually understand that what he did was a violation. I understand that there's really no scenario where I should just accept this man groping me. I think that a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this, sort of dismissed a lot of it because, well, that's Ron Jeremy. First of all, he's a star. Second of all, he's an old ass man. He's an old ass man. And I think we do that in general. You know, when your grandpa says something racist, you're just like, okay, grandpa, like you're just being racist or whatever. He's from a different time. This is a popular phrase. He's from a different time. You know, I don't think there's literally ever been a time where it was okay to grab a woman's hand and put it on your penis. I don't think that's ever been okay. A woman doesn't deserve for a random man to just insert himself inside of her. That's not okay, and we shouldn't be enabling it. I think the thing that's so wild to me about this is that everyone knew about it. Like, everyone knew that this is what Ron Jeremy did in this bar specifically. And the thing is, I talked to a lot of women who said that they had the same experience with Ron Jeremy, and they also laughed it off like it wasn't a big deal. It does really make me sad to know that he went so much further with other women and assaulted other women so much further. It's genuinely a really upsetting thought, and I feel really bad that maybe my own reaction to how he treated me, how he handled me, might have fed into this sort of idea that what he did wasn't very harmful. What he did wasn't a very big deal. It wasn't worth making a big stink over. There's no way that I could know that he, you know, grabbed my hand and put it on his dick and not believe that he assaulted and raped other women. I can't look at that. Even if it wasn't a bad experience for me, I can't look at that and not see it as a violation and not believe that he also violated other women. I can't. It would be so silly of me to act like that wasn't the case. So in closing, if you are a woman who has been assaulted by Ron Jeremy, I just want to say, I believe you. I believe you. I've been through it as well, and you are not alone. I really hope that anything I've said in this video hasn't made it feel like your experience was not as serious or not as severe. There's really no logic that supports the idea that it's completely okay for a man who you don't know, who you've never spoken to, who may or may not be famous, to just grab your hand and put it on his junk. It's just, that's not okay. It's not okay. That's all I had to say, and hopefully his victims will see justice. I'm here to say that he did it. I believe them 100%. I believe that he's guilty.